So, John, here we are.
All right.
We're going to dig into your book, Wonders of Spiritual Unfoldment.
Very good.
My first John Butler book. So I thought I highlighted some things that really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought maybe I could ask you some questions and you can
All right.
dig a little deeper. So, chapter 1, how it all began.
Yes.
I love this chapter. And this is a phrase I've heard you say often: to make whole, be whole.
Yes.
I think anyone that's followed you has heard you say that.
Yes.
Can you go a little deeper? Like, what does that really mean?
Oh, that's a big question, my dear. I'm not sure if I can cover that, because it's something that's been developing all my life. So how am I going to condense? Well, I think that phrase came to me when I was about 30. So how can I condense 55 years of experience to explain it? To make whole, be whole. It certainly has been probably one of the most important instructions ever given to me. And interesting, it didn't come through a human voice at all. I don't know where it came from. It just seemed to arise from nowhere. So but there it was. It certainly has taken root in me. Well, my mother used to say to me as a little boy, smile and the world smiles with you. Cry and you cry alone. Smile and the world smiles with you. Well, that's it really, because depending on what's in here, that will determine what you see out there. Not long ago, somebody said to me, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Now, that's also profoundly true, isn't it? It's a common phrase. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So when we look out and say, oh, the world's in crisis, or a terrible, the government's terrible and all that, does that mean that actually the problem is in here? Well, I suggest you consider that it probably is, because it's very strange how when we're in a good mood, the world can look a very different place from when we're in a bad mood, can't it? It's extraordinary how the world can be fun one minute and absolutely dreadful the next. It's the same world, isn't it? So it very much depends on what's going on in our own head, and perhaps in one's heart too, how one looks at life. Now, to make whole is, well, interpret that as we can at different stages of one's life. It may seem a tall order to be made whole. Most people probably interpret it as being healthy, whole in body, mind, and spirit. Well, that's a good start. So really, it's basically beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and so is wholeness. It's quite extraordinary, that in the higher stages of spiritual realization, when you begin to verge on perfection, how you can look out at the world as perfect. You don't throw a brick at me, it's quite true.
I love that. When I first read To Make Whole, Be Whole, it was really a gift to me. because, and I know you give the story of going to South America and trying to save the world. And I could relate to that. I think a lot of us can relate to that. So for me, it was very much like, it's okay to make myself whole versus having to think that I need to find passion, purpose out there in the world and make a difference. And I think, I mean, for myself, it's been a big trap. So that to make whole, be whole, was very liberating.
Well, it has been for me, so I'm glad if it works for other people too.
On the same page, a little further down, for those of you that are reading the book, you write, "My longing for the infinite beyond was pure and simple. My heart reached naturally for the stars."
Ah, yes.
So I highlighted longing for the infinite beyond.
Yes, yes, yes. Don't fence me in. That sums up my life. Don't fence me in. As a boy at school, I had a picture of a cowboy riding up to the crest of a hill, and the caption was, "Don't fence me in." And I just loved that, and I've loved it all my life. And what's that if not longing for the infinite? This instinct for space. Don't fence me in for the big country. I've always loved the big things of life. I've been to sea a few times, the great ocean, the unfenced ocean. I've been in deserts. I've been in many of the great grasslands of the world, the prairies and steppes of Asia. Yes, I've seen many great spaces, the sort of thing you see from the tops of mountains. Don't fence me in. The longing for the infinite. Why do we climb mountains? What for? What's up there? It just gets bigger and bigger, doesn't it? You feel good, you expand, you just get bigger. And that's really what meditation is all about. You know, climbing mountains and going to the deserts is sort of outer meditation in the outer world, but with practice you can find it within yourself. It takes a bit more doing, but you can. Yes, don't fence me in, my dears. It's a very good principle to go through life with. It's not opting out of this world, you're opting into the greater world, to the freedom, which basically we're all longing for, the infinite. Spirit, where we originally, the home.
It's actually a good, John, a good lead-in, because on page 3 I had highlighted, we cannot know spirit mentally, we can only be it. And I was going to ask you, so, you know, the link to meditation is to really allow yourself or work towards having an experience. Is that how you would?
When I was learning to meditate, the school which taught me was very definite that we should not look for results. Beware of looking for results, because even if we have a marvelous sort of idea of what spiritual experience should be, we're simply projecting that, aren't we? And whereas real experience is always unpremeditated, unexpected. It comes like that little phrase, "Be whole," to make whole, be whole. It arises of itself, completely unexpectedly. Just like when you climb a mountain, because the sky is always different, the light is always different. You never know what to expect, do you? Even if you've seen the view 100 times before, it's always different. And so it is with spiritual experience. True experience never, ever repeats itself. The only thing that repeats itself is man, mass production, and that sort of thing. This is repetitive. The true world, like every snowflake is different, every blade of grass is different, every grain of wheat is different. The only thing that knows repetition is man. And even more so, every spiritual experience is different. I've been meditating for 60 years, and it's never ever been the same. Amazing, isn't it? Like you look out at the sky, it's never the same, is it? No two sunsets are ever the same.
But the root of your practice is the meditation. So the experience is always different, but the commitment is to meditating. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, that's a good thing to do, to establish the routine, so you do it. Otherwise, it's all too easy to find excuses not to. Yes, it's a very good. Anybody that seriously wants to take up meditation, is well advised to establish a routine, like cleaning your teeth and doing these sort of things. You don't usually miss your breakfast, do you? So don't miss meditation.
So to make it really well understood, if someone was a spiritual seeker or wanted to get on the spiritual path to meditation, how would be a good place to start? How many times a day? What duration? What would be a good recommendation from you?
It's confusing these days, dear. There's so many ways and means on offer on the internet. I was really lucky when I was started. I looked for someone to teach me, and I only ever found one place. That was in London. It's an awful bore. I had to go all the way to London to receive instruction, but I did. Now people just pick up something on the internet that may or may not be of the best quality. There's a lot of inexperienced people out there, as well as a few good ones. But anyway, find the best source of it you can. My suggestion, you keep it very simple. I'd rather not go down the path of recommending a method on the internet. There are just too many people out there. And the best instruction is always given one-to-one personal instruction. That's the traditional way it's given. But that seems very difficult these days because everybody's offering their different methods, just on the internet. So you can shop around, and many people get very confused with it all. Don't know which one to choose. Well, I wouldn't either. I've always trusted nature. Oh, seriously, I think just looking at the sky is as good a meditation as most of them, probably better than most. Coming to silence. Feet on the ground, listen and look. It's a very good method. You won't go wrong with that. If you really do feel your feet on the ground, listen and look, you will be present. But you've got to do it with 100% attention. And when you do that, your mind will be quiet, completely quiet, if you do it with full attention. When you do anything you really love, if you love something with your whole heart, you won't think of anything else, will you? If you look at someone you love with full attention, in that moment of looking at someone, you won't think of anything else. Your mind will be completely quiet. You'll just be 100% in that encounter of eyes. That's perfect meditation. How are you going to continue that for half an hour of practice? That's not so easy. We're not always in a situation with something we love. Just stroking a dog is a wonderful meditation. Stroke it and feel that lovely feeling of the warm, soft hair. Beautiful. You're attentive, aren't you? Your mind is brought to rest.
I mean, this is very helpful. Maybe the final thing, John, just to really clarify, is the simpler the process of meditation, the better. And
Yes.
it's really a process of being present.
Exactly.
Is that correct, what I'm hearing you say?
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. Exactly. Yes. Simpler the better, and process, matter of being present. Yes.
Well, I think this is a good place to start.
May I just put a reminder that for those with a biblical background or scriptural background, I see God is present. Many times in the scriptures, it's emphasized that God is present. Where is God? God is here and now. We can never be closer to God than here and now. And see, if you're here and now and you're still, you're fully attentive, feet on the ground, bottom on the chair, you'll feel this stillness, which is the space, which is the presence. The presence of what? Well, what is God? Nobody knows, but the presence. Now, our problem is that we are not present, we are absent. You look at people in the street, how many are present? You'll be lucky if you find one. Are you present yourself? I do recommend standing in a busy street or sitting in a busy street, the busier the better. Just doing that simple exercise of feet on your ground, listen and look, and you'll find yourself in perfect stillness, perfect peace. You'll be present. And then you'll see that the human problem is that we are absent. We're absent from the presence of God. This is the whole human situation. This is why it all goes wrong.
Thank you, John. This is really beautiful. Probably a good place to stop.
Well, I was just getting into my stride, wasn't I?
Do you want to keep going?
Just getting interested. I could do.
We can keep going.
We could have a stop and start again. Or, I don't mind.
No, we can keep going. Right. I'm reading one. It's on page 7 of Wonders of Spiritual Unfoldment. It's this one sentence that really stuck out to me. One keeps growing, and at each stage, past lives are left behind. So through this process of meditation and feet on the ground.
Yes. Yes, I'd forgotten. Did I really write that? Gosh.
It's right here.
Read it again, will you?
So it's on the last paragraph. One keeps growing, and at each stage, past lives are left behind. So then it continues, what served its purpose yesterday is no more of use today. So I really hear this process of letting go.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? Think of your childhood. Where is it now? What happens to it? When you went to school and, the first time you fell in love, all these events that seemed sort of world-changing at the time. What's happened to them? Where have they gone? When you become as old as me, there's an awful lot behind you. You can't even remember most of it. Where's it gone? What's happened? So you see, that's it. It served its purpose. And it's very interesting, actually. You see, what dies? Do I die, or does the performance, does the the stage, the childhood, the youth, the middle age, the strength and energy, and the decline into old age, they all, one by one, they die out. And it's very interesting to ask yourself, well, what can I take beyond the grave? What's left? You know, when this old man's body has died, what's left? Just a big smile on my face, isn't it? I've done all that. I don't have to go through it again. I'm free. Dwell on that one, my friends. You know, the extraordinary thing is that the real essence of man doesn't grow old at all. He's ageless. Ah, now we're getting up into the big country again, you see. This is what it's all about, the infinite. My heart yearns for the infinite, that which does not die, the promise of eternal life. And this human experience is not the be and end all of life. It's just a stage.
On page 11, it kind of ties into this nicely. You write, there is a very important distinction between thought and realization.
Oh, yes, that's an important one, yes. Yes, a lot of people overestimate their thought. They think they can think their way to God, think their way to realization, think their way to meditation. Yes, it's a difficult one. See, one of the fundamental practices of meditation, well, let me. If you look right, I'm just in front of me now. So there's a lovely evening sun shining on the hillside, trees and some distant grass, rather dry after the dry weather, and then the sky beyond. Well, if I look at that, which I very often do, my mind almost always falls quiet because I love it. My heart just goes out there, and it always brings me rest. Really, rest to my mind. So the thinking process is quiet. Now, if you're observant when something like that happens, you'll realize that your thought then comes back again. So your thinking process can go and it can come. It ebbs and flows, doesn't it? Like the tide. Sometimes it's very intense, and other times, well, I didn't have a thought in my head. Extraordinary, it just goes. It comes and goes. Rather like the weather, it just changes all the time, doesn't it? Good moods, bad moods, depression, pleasure. It's always changing, just like the sky, like the clouds. And I'm waffling a bit. I may lose the thread of what I'm saying, but a very good way to describe the mind is when you go up in an aeroplane. You see what happens. There's the airport, the busy airport. You get in the aeroplane. It's a cloudy day. You can't see anything, just clouds. And then what happens? The aeroplane goes up. And you pass through the clouds. And then, goodness me, what's beyond the clouds? The beautiful sky. Now, if you think of thought as clouds, that's just how it is. The clouds are always changing, just like the mind is always changing. But meditation is really just like getting in an aeroplane. You get in an aeroplane and you go through the clouds. Oof, bingo. The other side is no thought at all, completely. Yes, you're not dead up there at all. You're more alive than you are when you're here. But you've got to realize it before you believe it. Otherwise, people don't believe you if they never experienced it. They think this is all there is, and that you've got to work out the purpose of life with this. This is really just like your tummy is a digestive system for physical food. This is just a digestive system for all the media, all the words that come into you all through the day. It's just churning it around. But it can be observed. When you get up in an airplane, you can look down and see the clouds. You know they're just clouds. It doesn't matter whether they're thick or thin. You're beyond them. Now you see. Oh, wait a minute. I forget to come back to your question. I'm forgetting it.
Well, it's really what you wrote. Where I mean, you're addressing it. There is a very important distinction between
thought and
realization.
Yes. Well, you see, when you go up above the clouds, you realize, don't you, that there is freedom. You can't think your way to it.
So, John,
realize it.
I have a question. So, for most of us, at least I'll speak for myself, when we meditate, there's a lot of thought.
A lot of thought, yes, of course there is. Yes.
A lot of thought.
Yes, yes.
So you just keep meditating, is what I'm hearing you say, until you rise, have enough practice to rise above the thought.
Well, I'm sure you've had moments when there's no thoughts. Nearly everybody has moments. I've taught enough people to meditate to know what happens. Often the very first time they meditate, because they're not expecting, they don't know what's going to happen. They close their eyes, they start to meditate, and then a quarter of an hour later, I say, okay, open your eyes. They open their eyes. Where have I been? What happened? Because, you see, they're not used to it. They don't know what's happened. And because there's no thought up there, they think, and I say, well, what did you experience? Nothing. What's there? Now then, is that nothing, you see, that is actually the infinite? And that's actually, that's really the everything. But because it isn't thinking, we need to develop this capacity of insight. You see, there's this exterior sight, which doesn't really see anything, it just sees physical things. But to see the invisible world, we need to, I'm sort of getting into all sorts of, I'm waffling a bit, aren't I? I'm going all over the place. But as meditation develops, what I'm talking about really becomes more and more clear, more and more obvious. Through actual experience, which is realization. You see, it's not thinking, it's seeing for yourself. Seeing for yourself. You can't think your way to beauty or wonder or love or any of these things, can you? They all come as realizations. God knows where. Where do they come from? God knows.
So the realization is, again, connected to the practice of meditation of here and now.
Well, it's a feature of everyday life, isn't it? We suddenly realize what's happened. We suddenly realize that springs come, or that autumns come. We suddenly realize that the hen's laid an egg. Or something wonderful. These things.
I think that's a good place to stop with the hen and the egg.
All right. I think we're going to have fun with this.